Haunted by time travel, the sinister truth I discovered will terrify you forever. Lisa could barely breathe as she stared at the clock resting ominously on her mantle. It was as if the air around her thickened, shrouded in dread, a chilling weight that made her skin crawl. Her grandfather had always claimed the clock was a family heirloom infused with secrets. Now, with every tick, it resonated with echoes of something dark, stirring an unsettling knot in her stomach that wouldn't relent. When Max dashed past her, spilling his juice, laughter filled the room. Innocent and unaware, he looked so carefree. But in the dead of night, as silence draped the neighborhood like a suffocating blanket, Lisa felt the pull of an unseen force. It beckoned her to the clock. The quiet hum of her suburban town trembled with an eerie unease, an invisible thread linking her present to a time soaked in shadows and fears long buried. She decided to ignore it. For now, juggling night shifts as a nurse and raising her spirited son left little room for pondering over ancient heirlooms. Yet, on those still nights, when the world around her slept, her thoughts strayed back to the clock. With the moonlight casting ominous shadows, she often felt eyes piercing through her, lurking just beyond her perception. With Max snugly asleep and the house dim, she reached for the clock. The wood was cold under her fingertips, its ornate carvings like jagged teeth ready to consume her sanity. Each winding of the delicate gears sent tremors down her spine. Suddenly, darkness enveloped her. A violent flash of light pulled her into a whirl of visions, a harrowing montage of her town's past consumed by despair. She witnessed neighbors, once smiling friends, crumbling beneath unseen forces. People vanished, absorbed into the very shadows that knocked at her door. Her heart raced. Panic clawed at her throat, choking her thoughts. She stumbled backward, gasping for breath, only to find herself staring wide-eyed at the clock's ticking face, a reminder of time quickly slipping away. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air thickened with suspense. Late-night outings, once peaceful drives to the local grocery store, morphed into harrowing treks through a neighborhood staring back at her with forced smiles. Her instincts screamed that something was amiss. The cheerleaders of the PTA and friendly faces at potlucks concealed a chilling truth. Were they all in on it? Each friendly wave twisted with malice in her mind. One night, the shadows danced like silhouettes under flickering streetlights, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. The clock's relentless ticking grew louder, drowning out rational thought as she grappled with the reality that twisted her surroundings. Lisa held her breath when she realized time was unraveling. Could she uncover the sinister web before the clock struck the hour of their doom? Or would she too become just another shadow lost to the night? A chill swept through the air as Lisa stood rooted in place, the ticking clock pulsing like a heartbeat in the stillness. She was drawn to it again, as if it held the answers she wasn't sure she could bear. Her eyes darted to the window, where the night sky loomed heavy, a sea of inky blackness, concealing whatever unspeakable forces were at play. The shadows outside seemed darker than before, creeping closer to her home, probing for a way in. Max stirred in his sleep, a soft murmur breaking through her isolation. In that instant, Lisa felt a surge of protectiveness, a desperate need to shield him from whatever darkness lurked beyond their walls. She felt her heart pound against her ribcage, each beat quickening the fear brewing inside her. What was happening to her town? Could she really trust her neighbors, those smiling masks hiding contempt? With a sudden burst of determination, she snatched a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and made her way through the house. The beam of light quivered as she cast it across the walls, revealing familiar family photos, smiles frozen in time, oblivious to the horrors unfolding just beneath the surface. Her parents, youthful and carefree, seemed to mock her unease. How could they have not seen the signs? Stepping outside, an unsettling silence enveloped her. The street lamps glowed with an eerie intensity, the lights almost too bright, as if warning her away from whatever lay in the dark corners of her neighborhood. She could hear the faint sounds of laughter echoing through the night, distant and hollow, a ghostly reminder of life before the malaise had settled in. The laughter twisted into whispers, carried by the wind, and her skin prickled with dread. "Mom." Max's small voice pierced the darkness as he emerged from the house, sleep still heavy in his eyes. The sight of him sent a wave of protectiveness crashing over her, and she knelt down to his level. "Stay close, buddy. We need to be careful," she whispered, searching his innocent face for reassurance that everything would be all right. Together, they ventured cautiously down the block, the flashlight beam cutting through the shadows. Each step felt like an intrusion, the air thickening around them. The laughter grew louder, more chaotic, yet the streets remained deserted. It was as if an unseen barrier had been drawn, separating them from their neighbors, banishing them from whatever joy had once filled their lives. Her instincts roared. She had to know more. The clock had hinted at the truth, and now its relentless ticking echoed in her mind as she made her way to Mrs. Reynolds' house, a trusted friend once. Lisa knocked hesitantly but was met with silence. She pushed the door open, the hinges squealing in protest. The familiar interior lay in disarray, furniture overturned, as if something had torn through it. This wasn't just a home. There were signs of struggle, pieces of a life disappearing. A sudden crash made her jump, the noise sending shockwaves through her heart. It came from the basement where time itself seemed palpably distorted. Without thinking, Lisa grasped Max's hand tightly, and they crept toward the stairs. As they descended into the dark, the flashlight flickered, a dying pulse illuminating the abyss. The air grew cold, and she could feel a presence lurking at the edges of her vision, watching, waiting. And then a voice, soft and chilling, whispered through the dark. "You shouldn't be here." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Who was it? What did they mean? And what had happened to Mrs. Reynolds? The clock ticked louder now, pounding in her ears. It was time to confront whatever fate awaited them in the dark and whatever sinister truth awaited her beyond the shadows. Max squeezed her hand tighter, his small fingers trembling. Lisa felt the icy grip of fear wrapping around her heart. "Mom, I don't like it here," he whispered, his voice barely breaking the suffocating silence. "Me neither, buddy." "Just stay close," she replied, her voice unsteady. The flashlight flickered again, and the beam struggled to pierce the oppressive darkness. They crept forward, the air thick with something unnameable, something that chilled her bones. Each step felt unbearable, as though the weight of the past was pressing against them, forcing them back into the world above. Then another whisper, clearer this time, drifted through the shadows, sending shivers down Lisa's spine. "This isn't the place for you. Who's there?" Lisa called out, her voice echoing off the damp walls. Silence followed, heavy and absolute. She felt the oppressive atmosphere shift, like a predator calculating its next move. The flashlight blinked again. And then it died, plunging them into complete darkness. Panic flared within her. "Max!" she hissed, clutching his hand even tighter. Every instinct urged her to escape, to flee back up the stairs, but something deeper compelled her forward. The whispering grew louder as if encouraging her on, beckoning them further into the void. "Don't leave me," Max whimpered, and Lisa could hear the tremors in his voice. "There's someone here. We have to find out who it is," she insisted, fear coiling inside her stomach. She felt along the wall, desperately searching for a switch or something to lean against. The silence felt alive, shifting, watching, anticipating. As her fingers brushed against a cool, metallic surface, she stopped. It felt like a handle. With a quick breath, she pulled, and the door swung open with a groan. A gust pushed against her, leaving an unsettling touch on her skin. Inside, shadows twisted into shapes, bending beyond recognition. The stench of decay hung in the air, a sickly sweet odor that threatened to suffocate her. Lisa stepped inside, instinctively knowing that something terrible awaited them. "Mom, I don't want to go in," Max pleaded, his voice a fragile thread in the oppressive gloom, but she had to. Every fiber of her being screamed for answers. She took a step deeper, the creaking wood beneath her feet echoing as if the house itself were alive, warning them of the secrets buried within. The room was cluttered with old furniture and boxes, remnants of lives long past. In the center, a dust-covered table caught her eye, an ancient clock lying atop it, the same clock from their house, ornate and sinister, with hands frozen at midnight. Before she could move closer, shadows darted in her periphery, shifting just beyond her vision. She turned her head, but they vanished, leaving behind a dense fog of silence. The whispers returned, urgent, insistent. "It's running out of time. What does that mean?" Lisa whispered to no one in particular, her hands trembling as she inched toward the clock. The air thickened, a palpable dread wrapping around her throat. The whispers twisted her heart, laced with malevolence. They spoke of inevitability, of choices turned rotten. "Mom, please." Max tugged at her sleeve, his eyes wide with terror. "What if we're too late?" She felt a knot of desperation in her stomach. What if this was all a trap? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the other end of the room, sending them both into a panic. Lisa spun around, heart racing. There, at the edge of the darkness, a figure loomed, indistinguishable in the shadows. "Leave," the voice rasped, filled with a chilling authority. Lisa's heart raced, her breath quickening as she clutched Max to her side, ready to run. But something held her, urged her to stand her ground. She felt the weight of history, of unknown betrayals. What lay behind that figure? What would they discover if they pressed forward? "Mom," Max whispered, eyes darting from her to the silhouette. The figure shifted, and the whispers grew frenzied, crashing against her like waves of ice. The clock ticked again, a slow, deliberate sound, each second echoing like a taunt that it was more than a warning. It was a challenge. Lisa's heart raced. They couldn't turn back now. But was she ready for whatever truth awaited them in that abyss? Just then, the clock's hands began to move. What would happen as time unraveled? The clock hands jerked, jerking Lisa from her thoughts. The unmistakable sound of a tick-tock filled the air, resonating against the walls like a heartbeat. Each tick echoed ominously, thrumming with an urgency that gripped her heart tighter. "Mom." Max's voice trembled, breaking her trance. She turned to him, seeing fear etched in his young face, the kind that twisted her gut with despair. "What's happening?" he asked, his eyes darting nervously between her and the shadow that loomed ahead. "I don't know." Max breathless, she felt every word weigh like stones. The figure remained also, slowly revealing itself, texture and detail manifesting from the darkness. A woman, face pale, eyes sunken, her mouth twisted in a crooked line, whispering softly as if sharing secrets with the walls. "Time is important. You shouldn't have," she crooned, her voice grating against Lisa's nerves like nails on a chalkboard. "Get away from us." Lisa shouted, every instinct screaming to protect her son. The woman's figure leaned closer, momentarily illuminated by a stray beam of moonlight filtering through a cracked window. Lisa staggered back, heart pounding, as the woman's features twisted into an expression of delight and pain, an echo of decades of sorrow. "It can't go back," the woman hissed, her words slithering through the air. "You cannot change what has already been sealed." Max whimpered again, stepping back beside his mother. "But we have to go," Lisa whispered, backing up instinctively, desperate to retreat yet drawn inexplicably to the clock. "We didn't mean to intrude too late." The woman shrieked, her voice rising, laced with anguish. "It's running out of time." With that, the air buzzed, heavy and thick, swirling like a storm had unleashed in the confines of that room. The clock's ticks escalated, quickening mercilessly, a staccato roar drowning out the woman's cries, leaving Lisa's heart racing wildly. "Mom, what do we do?" Max's voice rose, cutting through the madness. The room began to twist, shadows dancing to a dark rhythm, revealing glimpses of other worlds. Shapes collided in darkness, glimpses of faces, places long gone but still tethered to that cursed clock. Memories collided, raw and jagged. A rush of color merged with the shadows, a cacophony of voices rising, begging for attention. Lisa felt her feet falter. We must run. We have to get back. As they turned, the door creaked ominously, groaning, a reluctant portal between them and whatever horrors awaited them outside. With trembling hands, she pulled Max along, heart drumming viciously against her ribs. Stay close, she urged as the whispers morphed into screams, echoing hauntingly, filling the room with haunting regrets of the lost. Mom! Max screamed, suddenly yanking his hand away. Lisa spun, her breath catching as she saw her son staring wide-eyed, frozen. Max, no! The shadows stretched, curling around him like tendrils of smoke, tempting him to stay. Lisa rushed back, holding his shoulders tight, the whispers crescendoing, wrapping around them, both 1,000 voices mixing in a frenzy. Join us, it's already done. No. I want to let you take him. Lisa cried, fear burning through her veins. She pushed forward, the clocks ticking, swelling with each desperate heartbeat. Her mind raced as the shadows clawed at her, each flicker pressing closer, begging for surrender, but in that moment of terror, she made a choice. Clenching her fists, she focused on the clock, on its chaotic ticking, on what it meant. If time had trapped them here, perhaps it could free them too. Max, grab the clock, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. We're leaving. Now. With sheer force of will, she yanked him towards the clock, desperate to break whatever hold it had, ready to shatter the very fabric of that dreadful place. As they reached for the clock together, the world around them spiraled like a fraying reel of film, shadows shrieking as light burst forth, blinding them, drowning out their cries. When the brightness faded, they found themselves standing once more in the entryway of the old house, the clock's presence now a ghostly echo behind them. An unsettling stillness blanketed the air. Did we make it? Max questioned, his voice trembling. But she could feel it, a deep, gnawing dread, as shadows lurked at the edges of their vision. She turned back to the door, heart racing as the whispers began again, urging them to return, assuring them that time was not done yet. What have we unleashed? Lisa thought, a chilling realization creeping over her. The clock's hands had begun to move again, and she knew they were far from free. What exactly had they just awakened? Max's fingers tightened around Lisa's hand, his small palm slick with sweat. The entryway felt wrong, like a breath held too long. The air buzzed, thick with an unshakable tension that wrapped around them like a heavy fog, hinting at something more sinister lurking just beyond their perception. What do we do now? The fear in Max's voice was palpable. Lisa glanced at him, her heart aching. She had promised to keep him safe, to shield him from dangers that shadowed over them. Yet here they stood, teetering at the edge of unraveling their lives. Stay close. We need to find a way out, she whispered, eyes darting around, panic bubbling just beneath the surface. With each tick of the clock that now echoed eerily, she felt the pit in her stomach grow deeper. She turned to the door from where they de-emerged, but the whispers escalated, saturating the space with dark promises. Lisa swallowed hard, fighting against the urge to flee back into that looming darkness. What had they brought back with them? Is it the clock? Max asked, his voice small yet inquisitive amidst the chaos. I don't know, Lisa stammered, holding him tightly as they stepped further inside. The house felt alive, its walls pulsating with something undetectable, the very structure breathing against her skin. Max pulled away slightly, his wide-eyed stare remaining glued to the mantel where the clock now sat ominously, ticking with an unnatural cadence. It was no longer the old grandfather clock, but something darker, composed of shadows and echoes. Instead of hands, twisted fingers crept slowly around its face, creeping, clawing, and grasping as if trying to free themselves from the watch's troubling grasp. What if it's not over? He whispered, as if his innocence could shield him from the truth. I don't want to think about that, Lisa replied, forcing a brave smile that cracked her heart. But even she felt the creeping dread seep into her veins, drawing tight like a noose half-heartedly tied. Are we trapped? Max's voice quivered, slicing through her attempt at reassurance. Maybe just for a moment, she countered, moving toward the kitchen, desperate for a sign of safety. Each step carried tremors of foreboding, the shadows in the corners itching closer, pulling at her nerves. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the living room. The sound tore through the house like a scream. They froze, both sets of eyes widening in horror. "Mom!" Max cried. "Shoo!" Lisa hissed, pushing him behind her. Every instinct screamed to run, but she couldn't leave him. A figure emerged from the shadows, scribbling through the doorway, almost as if it were made of the darkness itself. Breath caught in her throat as Lisa recoiled, the shapes shifting, melding into something no longer human. "Did you think you could escape?" It rasped, a voice distorted and echoing through the room, heavy with malice and despair. "Time demands payment." Lisa's pulse raced. "Who are you?" She shouted, yet her voice trembled, betraying her terror. The entity towered over them, shadows writhing around its form like smoke. It raised an elongated finger, pointing directly at the clock. "You've opened the door, now you must pay your dues." The ticking grew louder, extravagantly mocking. It felt like a heartbeat, quick and impatient. "What dues?" she asked, feeling fragile under its weight. "Your time is seeping away," the figure hissed, drawing closer, leaving trails of darkness in its wake. "And with each passing second, they come closer." "Who?" Max squeaked, confusion radiating off him. "Lost souls, collectors of time," the shadow replied, drawing closer, its gaze intensified. The fear on Max's face was a mirror of Lisa's own terror. "Run!" she shouted, grabbing his hand tightly once more, her heart pounding a mantra against her ribs. As they fled toward the front door, the figure's voice rose above the ticking cacophony, "You will seek us again. There is nowhere to hide." With that, they burst out into the still night, the cool air brushing against their faces but offering no real comfort. Max looked back fearfully, and Lisa felt a twist in her gut. "What is going to happen?" he gasped, the fear fresh and lingering. A soft echo resonated from the house, a whisper laced with promises of retribution. Lisa turned back, and in that moment, she felt their connection to the clock tighten, an unseen anchor pulling them in. "Mom," Max whispered, a thread of terror lacing through his voice. "Time isn't done with us yet," she murmured, feeling the clutch of predestination tightening around them. As the clock's hands resumed their frenzied ticking, an unsettling realization cut through the air. They weren't just out of the shadows, they were already entangled in a web of haunting memories, cycles of fate. The clock wasn't merely counting time, it was counting them down. What had they awakened in their desperate flight? Lisa's breath came in sharp, short gasps as they ran, the chill of the night air doing little to cool the heat of her panic. Max clung to her side, his small frame trembling as they reached the edge of the lawn. The house stood behind them, dark and foreboding, as if it had devoured all light and hope. "Mom, are we safe?" he whimpered, eyes wide and shining with tears. "Not yet," Lisa replied, glancing back at the looming structure. The clock's taunting tick-tock resonated in her mind, a haunting reminder of what they had disturbed. Each beat sounded like the countdown of a bomb, echoing with a sinister promise. Without thinking, she pulled Max into the shadows of a nearby tree. They crouched low, hidden among the gnarled roots that twisted beneath them like the fingers from the clock face. The darkness felt suffocating, alive with whispers that seemed to seep from the earth itself. "Stay quiet," she urged, straining to listen. The world around them was muted, save for the sporadic rustling of leaves that sounded like hushed conversations growing in intensity. As they waited, she felt the ground tremble beneath them, a low rumble that quickened her heartbeat. What was happening? A figure emerged from the shadows of the house, gliding like smoke spilled from a broken vase. It moved with unnatural grace, its shape flickering like a candle's flame, always shifting, always watching. Lisa's stomach twisted. Was it searching for them? "Time," it whispered, the word curling around her ears like a noxious fog. "Time waits for no one, but the price must be paid." Max's small hand tightened around hers, knuckles white. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, vibrating with fear. "Mom, I can't breathe," he choked out, his voice cracking. "Just hold on, sweetie, just hold on." The figure continued its macabre dance across the lawn, its hollow gaze sweeping over the area, searching every shadow. Lisa dared not move, frozen in place, paralyzed by dread. Suddenly, the air around them thickened and a frigid breeze passed, sending chills down her spine. The whispers lifted, surrounding them in a chorus of anguished cries. She squeezed Max's hand tighter, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. In the next breath, the figure stopped and turned its attention directly toward the tree. Lisa's blood ran cold. "You can't hide from what you've called," it hissed, voice piercing through the air like a knife. "The clock is ticking, the cycle cannot be broken." With a flash of desperation, Max whispered, "Mom, please, I'm scared." Lisa's thoughts raced. "We need to get to the road," she urged, her mind searching for a way out as she planned their escape. But the words wouldn't come. The shadows pressed closer, each patch of darkness seeming alive now, pulling her back to the clock, to whatever fate awaited them in that cursed house. Forcing her eyes to remain steady on the figure, she took a shaky step back into the thick of the tree, instinctively protecting Max. It turned again, its features distorted in the dim light, revealing a grin that stretched far too wide, showing teeth like cracked tombstones. "Time will find you," it taunted, voice weaving through the branches like smoke. "And when it does, remember, you seek freedom from what you cannot escape. Run!" Lisa shouted suddenly, grasping Max's arm and tearing from the dark embrace of the roots. They burst out into the open, the moonlight illuminating their path as they sprinted toward the road, desperately hoping they could break free. Behind them, the house roared with a cacophony of laughter that sent shivers down Lisa's spine. It was the same sinister sound that had haunted her dreams, the echoes of the damned crying out from the depths of the unseen. The pavement felt hard and unyielding under their feet as they raced forward. "What do we do now?" Max cried, panting heavily. "We need to find help," Lisa gasped, glancing back just once. The figure stood at the threshold of the house, watching them leave with a gaze that felt like claws raking her spine. The road stretched endlessly before them, lined with shadows and secrets. But as they ran, another realization hit Lisa like a brick. The house hadn't lost them. It was only the beginning. And wherever they went, the clock was still counting down. Max's voice trembled as they ran further into the night. "What if it comes after us?" "Then we'll fight," she replied, gripping his hand tightly. "Together." But beneath the weight of her words, doubt gnawed at her heart. What if they were already too late? The cold air filled Lisa's lungs like ice, seizing her breath as they stumbled onward. The road seemed to stretch infinitely into the darkness, an endless black ribbon that taunted their desperate flight. Shadows danced along the edges, flickering in the moonlight, and the chilling laughter from the house echoed hauntingly behind them. "Mom!" Max gasped, nearly tripping over his own feet, his eyes wide with terror. What if it follows us?" Lisa bit her lip, struggling to push aside the creeping dread. "It won't," she lied, forcing courage into her voice. "We just have to keep moving." The thrill of fear throbbed through her veins and she tightened her grip on Max's hand, pulling him to keep pace. In her mind, the words repeated like a chant, "Find help. Get away." They must reach the town ahead, but what if the town was just a mirage? A car approached in the distance, its headlights piercing the darkness like a salvation, but just as quickly, Lisa's hope slipped away when the vehicle swerved past without so much as a glance in their direction. Panic surged in her chest. "They can't just ignore us," she shouted, verifying her sanity. "We have to." Suddenly, a cold gust of wind whipped past them, rattling the trees, carrying whispers that sounded eerily familiar. Time they followed the sound, surreal and haunting, weaving between the rustling leaves. "Mom, do you hear that?" Max whimpered, his eyes darting around. "Yes, I." Before she could finish, a piercing shriek ripped through the air, slicing through the night like glass. Lisa spun around, heart racing. Had they disturbed something else? Dark shapes shifted in the corners of her vision, only to vanish when she looked closer. "Stay close," she urged, tugging him forward once more, forcing her legs to push faster. Just then, a shadow flickered before them, flaring and fading like a dying candle, then revealing a woman pale and gaunt, with sunken eyes that spoke of despair. She lifted her hand as if to reach out. "Help!" the apparition pleaded. "You must listen. The clock, it cannot be stopped." Lisa stumbled back, fear twisting in her gut. "What do you mean? What clock?" The woman's features twisted in agony. "You have awakened it. You must find the heart of the house. Destroy it or you will never be free." As quickly as she appeared, the image dissolved, leaving behind nothing but the echo of her voice, filling the silence with dread. "Mom, I'm scared." Max's tiny voice shook through the cold night. "Stay with me." Lisa glanced around, feeling time slip through her fingers like sand. "We have to keep going, Max. We can't give in." But inside her, something else stirred. The knot of terror revolved, and dread pooled in her thoughts. The house had pulled at something irrevocable within her, and now, the shadows clawed at the edges of her sanity. Each step felt heavier, as if something had latched onto her, dragging her back toward that cursed doorway. Ahead, the outline of a small building appeared amidst the trees, a diner flickering weakly with neon lights. "Look, Max." She pointed, hope igniting just enough to prop her weary spirit. "Help is right there." But as they approached, the diner's glow flickered ominously, and the doors swung open, revealing only darkness within. "Mom, I don't want to go in there." Max's voice shook even more now, terrified, but the whispers returned, echoing off the diner's walls, wrapping around them. "You have to choose, run or stay." "Stay where?" Lisa's heart raced, fighting against the terror threatening to engulf them. Time hung heavy in the air like a noose, creeping ever closer. They were running out of options, and Lisa felt its grasp tightening around her throat. "Mom, please." Max pleaded, his eyes drowning in fear. "Okay, let's go inside," she decided, even as every fiber of her being screamed against it. The whispers had promised help, but at what cost? As they crossed the threshold, the lights flickered out completely, plunging them into darkness. "Mom." The penetrating silence enveloped them. And then the clock began to chime from nowhere, a series of ominous, echoing rings that reverberated through the very bones of the building. Lisa held her breath, and the realization hit her with icy clarity. They weren't just running from the house. They were devoured by time itself. What sacrifice would they have to make to escape? The moment they crossed into the diner, the air shifted, thick and oppressive. The darkness swallowed them whole, and Lisa tightened her grip on Max's hand, trying to quell the tremors that threatened to shake her body apart. Just beyond the threshold, the chilling clang of the clock echoed relentlessly, filling the void with its cruel reminders of the minutes slipping away. "Mom." Max's voice broke the silence, barely a whisper. "It's too dark, just stay close to me," she managed, trying to sound brave. But in truth, the hair on her arms stood up, an unsettling awareness creeping through her. Shadows lurked, weaving between the diner's shadows, eyes peering, watching, waiting. As she took a slow step forward, the sound of her sneakers against the grimy linoleum echoed too loudly in the unsettling stillness. The diner's once vibrant decor now lay faded and peeling, the booths mottled with spots that looked alarmingly like dried blood. The flicker of a solitary neon sign buzzed angrily outside, but inside, nothing moved. "Mom, let us go, I don't like it here." Max's pleading voice cut through the air like a knife. Lisa felt the weight of his fear and her own growing. But they couldn't turn back now. The house, with its tormenting cries, chased them, and the shadow of the woman lingered in her mind, ominously brewing dread. Ignoring the yearning to flee, she pushed further into the diner. She needed to be brave for Max. "We just need to find someone or something." We can't be the only ones here. The ticking clock grew louder, resonating within her skull. With each pulse, it felt as if time itself was constricting around them. "Simon," she urged, pulling Max toward the counter that lay ahead, its surface slick and uninviting, the silence stretched, wrapping around them like a heavy blanket. Just as they reached the counter, a figure emerged from the shadows, blending into the dim light. Lisa's heart stopped. "Welcome," it croaked, the voice scraping against her ears. The man behind the counter was disheveled, his eyes wide and unblinking. "You're not supposed to be here. Who are you?" Lisa demanded, the fear roiling in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "Time, it's not what you think." His grin was unsettling. "You don't belong in a place like this. You should have run." Before she could speak, the lights flickered, casting the diner in short bursts of light. The transient glow enabled glimpses of more figures lurking behind the half-visible booths, hollow-eyed patrons frozen mid-bite, their faces pale and expressionless. "Mom!" Max clutched her tighter, digging his fingers into her arm. "Time is a game and you're pieces." The man's voice dropped to a raspy whisper. "You must play or be forever lost." "Play what? What do you want from us?" Lisa shouted, backing away slowly, her pulse racing. Suddenly, the clock chimed again, a deafening sound that reverberated off the walls. The patrons in the diner jerked, their eyes blinking into life, mouths moving in rhythm with the chimes. They were counting. "Join us. It's your choice." They echoed in unison, their voices twisting into a cacophony that masked rational thought. Lisa's world spun as she grasped for clarity. "We need to leave, Max. Now." They turned to the exit, but with each step, the diner shifted, the walls closing in, reshaping as if mocking their desperation. The clock continued its relentless cycle, mocking their efforts to escape the inevitable. "Time one to let you go," the counter attendant repeated, his grin widening, eyes gleaming with a sinister glint. "You will be back." Just as they reached the threshold, a hand shot out from the shadows, grasping Max's arm with an icy grip. "Mom! Help!" Max screamed, fear crashing over them both as Lisa yanked him away, adrenaline surging through her veins. "Run!" They dashed toward the door, but the world around them warped with each frantic step. The clock chimed a final, resounding toll as the diner swallowed their cries, wrapping them once more into the grip of darkness. "Mom, what is happening?" Max's voice was muffled, lost in the chaos of ominous laughter. "Hold on." The last thing Lisa saw was the clock on the wall, its hands spinning wildly, before darkness enveloped them entirely, and then everything went silent. Where would they awake next? Would they ever escape the curse of time? Lisa blinked, her eyes adjusting slowly to a stark new reality. The grease-stained diner was gone, replaced by an open field stretching endlessly beneath a bruised sky. A thick fog crept along the ground, swirling around their feet like tendrils reaching for them. "Mom." Max's voice was tentative, a hint of fear wrapped tightly around each syllable. She felt the panic grip her chest as they stood alone in the field, a world severed from their memories. "We need to keep moving," she urged, scanning their surroundings for any sign of life. The fog thickened, obscuring everything in a shroud of gloom. "Where are we?" Max asked, his eyes wide with worry. They were so far from the diner, and yet the oppressive weight of the air felt familiar, as if it had transported them further into the depths of despair. "Just stay close." She took his small hand, squeezing it hard. A bitter wind whipped around them, carrying a faint echo of laughter, distant yet intrusive. "Can you hear that?" he whispered. Lisa nodded, dread pooling in her stomach. The laughter was chilling, punctuated by the soft ticking of a clock somewhere far off, like a heartbeat dictating the rhythm of this nightmare. "We need to." Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled, shaking with a force that almost knocked them down. They staggered, trying to keep their balance as shadowy figures emerged from the fog, blurred at first, before solidifying into forms, those sinister patrons from the diner. Join us, they rasped in unison, their mouths stretched into eerie grins, eyes hollow yet filled with a longing that made Lisa shiver. Play with time. Run. Max, we have to run. As if waking from a trance, they turned on their heels, sprinting through the thick fog, feet thumping against the soft earth. It felt endless, the fog swirling around them, but Lisa could hear the echo of their laughter grow louder behind them, biting at their heels. Faster. She urged, but it felt like the darkness around them held a weight, slowing their movements, each step heavier than the last. Mom, I can't. I'm too tired. Max protested, his breath hitching in his throat. She could feel his fear radiating into her, igniting her own. Keep going, Max. Don't stop. But the shadows were closing in, weaving through the fog like dancers, relentless. Just when she thought they might break through, the oppressive laughter erupted, bursting from the fog like a dam of despair. You can't escape time. From the shadows, the broken faces of the diner patrons materialized, their eyes locked onto her and Max with an unyielding stare that pulled at Lisa's sanity. Play with us, play your part. The world blurred, and Lisa felt a sudden tug, an icy grip around her heart. An overwhelming sensation washed over her, like being submerged underwater, and she gasped for air, longing for the comfort of predictability. Then, in a flash, the field vanished again, and they found themselves standing inside the diner once more, right where they had started, but the shadows seemed thicker now, swirling with menace. Mom, we're back. Max's voice trembled as he glanced around, horrified recognition dawning upon him. Not again, she whispered, feeling the dread crawl up her spine. The clock on the wall ticked ominously, its hands spinning wildly, while the man from behind the counter appeared once more, his grin wider, teeth bared in a sinister display. Now you understand time is a loop, and you'll play until you've learned your lesson. Leave us alone. Lisa screamed, her voice cracking under the weight of despair. The laughter echoed again, blending with the ticking clock. The patrons shifted, their faces blurring as darkness infected the air. Lisa tightened her grip on Max, her heart racing. Mom, we have to do something. What do we do? She shouted over the cacophony. But as the clock's hands continued to spin, Lisa realized that this time, the only option left was to confront whatever terror festered within the depths of time. And as the clock chimed ominously, she felt a chill run down her spine. What more would they have to sacrifice? How far would they have to fall? Look. Max pointed, eyes wide, and Lisa followed his gaze to where the shadows began to deepen, forming a door amid the madness. What if she started, her breath catching in her throat? Mom, we have to go through. But the question loomed heavy, pulling at her. What would they unleash if they dared to step through that door? The air crackled with anticipation, suffocating Lisa and Max as they neared the door formed from the very shadows they had tried to escape. It loomed before them, a dark portal whispering promises and threats alike, swirling with a strange, entrancing power. Mom, we have to. Max insisted, his small voice wavering, eyes wide and pleading. Despite the dread wrapping around Lisa like an icy shroud, she felt a strange pull toward the door. It felt dangerous yet familiar, like a part of the grand puzzle she must solve to protect her son. Okay, Max, but we stick together, she said, her heart thrumming with fear and resolve. No matter what. They reached for the door, fingers trembling, and together they pushed against the weight of darkness. The door creaked open, revealing a swirling vortex. Sounds of laughter and screams poured out, a cacophony of voices beckoning them. There's no time. The voice of the diner attendant echoed, sinisterously reminding them, refusing to let them forget. Holding each other tighter, they crossed the threshold, bracing for whatever lay beyond. Their senses exploded as they were consumed by sparkling darkness. They stumbled out into a new landscape, unlike anything they had seen before. Time here bent and twisted, not minutes but memories spun like leaves in the wind. Shadows danced, luring them deeper into a realm of forgotten moments, long-buried truths threatening to devour them whole. Max, look around. Lisa breathed, awestruck and terrified. They stood in a vast expanse where fragments of time collided. Images flashed before them, lives that bore the same panic and despair they felt now. Max gasped, clutching her leg, as a vision of their neighborhood emerged, reflecting both joy and sadness in vibrant detail. Past birthdays, swinging at the park, laughter echoing down the streets, haunting memories that collided with the present struggle. "Mom! I can't take this!" Max cried, burying his face in her side, the heaviness of what they faced threatening to swallow them whole. "Remember what the woman said?" Lisa murmured, her thoughts racing. "We need to find the heart of the house." They moved forward, determination flickering like a candle in a gusty room. The ground pulsed like a heartbeat beneath their feet. The laughter turned into cries, until they echoed like dreadful wind, and Lisa could feel the presence of those lost souls swirling around her, lost to the relentless tick-tock of the clock. Suddenly, they found themselves before a massive clock tower, its face illuminated by an eerie light. The clock hands spun wildly, barely keeping track of the moments that slipped away. "This must be the heart." "Max," she whispered, "this is what we need to destroy." But even as she spoke the words, dread seeped into her bones as she approached. The closer they got, the more she felt the weight of each lost second, pressing down until it felt impossible to breathe. "What if it hurts, Mom?" Max asked, terror framing his small face. Lisa knelt down, gripping his shoulders. "It might. But we have to set it right to save ourselves and everyone trapped in time. Remember your bravery. Remember that we're fighting for our lives." With a shake of determination, she grabbed the cold metal of the clock. Its surface buzzed with energy, and she could feel time fighting back, wrapping invisible chains around her wrists, pulling her away from her goal. "Mom! Help me!" Max panicked, as the space around them warped, shadows stretching toward him. "Let him go!" Lisa screamed, pulling with all her strength against the pull of darkness. With one sudden motion, she raised her hand and smashed down onto the clock's face, the sound reverberating like thunder. A surge of white light exploded, illuminating the dark corners surrounding them, tearing through the very fabric of time itself. Echoes of lost souls screamed, caught in the web of their own pasts, shouting for release. As the light surged, the twisted hands of the clock began to unravel, and time itself seemed to ripple. "Mom!" Max screamed, as he slipped from the shadows. "Max! Hold on to me!" She cried, reaching for him, desperately pulling him close as the world around them began to disintegrate, turning into fragments of memories and dreams. In a moment that felt like an eternity, with the shadows warring against the light, the clock shattered into 1,000 sparkling pieces, scattering its malevolence through the air. Everything fell silent. When the world settled again, Lisa blinked, her heart racing, alive in a bright, warm light. She was on their porch, the fading sun painting the sky. Max stood beside her, astonished yet safe. "Mom!" he whispered, looking around. The neighborhood looked the same, yet there was a peculiar stillness, a lightness in the air. "Max," she said, tears of relief spilling down her cheeks, "we did it." As they took a step forward, laughter drifted in the breeze. Familiar, joyous, not twisted. It was the laughter of children playing, of neighbors greeting one another with genuine smiles. "Is this?" Max trailed off, heart racing, eyes bright with wonder. "Yes," Lisa exclaimed, breathing deeply. "We're home." They would never forget what they faced, but now they were free. Time would no longer haunt them. They had broken the cycle of despair, sowing hope into their future. As they turned, hand in hand, the sun dipped below the horizon. Life resumed around them, illuminating their path ahead. And the ancient clock from the porch? It remained still, the haunted past locked away, never to torment their family again. "Let us go inside," Lisa smiled, tugging Max towards the door, warmth settling comfortably in her chest. "We have a lot of adventures to plan." Max beamed up at her. "Can we make cookies?" "Absolutely," she laughed, feeling lighter with every step. As they crossed the threshold, the door closing softly behind them, a new chapter awaited, full of love and laughter ticking in perfect harmony. The darkness had lost, they had conquered time. Now was the moment to thrive. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Every like really does help. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.